It was somewhere around the time of 336 BC when Alexander the Great, son of King Philip II, inherited about 40,000 men, a disparate group of mercenaries, Macedonians, of different rank, order, file, technology, tools, skill set, but they had all trained with perfection under his father, King Philip II. They had trained consistently, and King Philip had invented some type of improved or evolved spear. The Sarissa spear was longer, and they were able to fight in that phalanx at a higher degree of precision, at a higher degree of effectiveness because of the technological advancements that this visionary, King Philip II, instilled not only in himself, but in his men and how they trained and worked together in their culture. He had such vision that at a very young age, he had his son, Alexander the Great, on horseback, tutoring under the genius Aristotle, learning about battles and the humanities and philosophy and learning how to think and developing this curiosity or thirst for knowledge or heightening his energy around warfare, training, thinking of orders of magnitude ahead others. It was in the beginning of his career as a student of his father, as an admirer of his father's skill in warfare, that Alexander was said to have mounted Bucephalus, the horse that no one could mount. And his father had told him, Alexander, Macedonia is not big enough for you. You're going to have a vision much greater. And so 20 years into his life, Alexander's father, King Philip II, passes abruptly, and Alexander has inherited this army of about 40,000 men. And he decides to cross the river and fight that first fight with a mercenary hired by Darius III, the Persian emperor, the Persian king of the known world, the strongest foe up to that point in history, going against Alexander the Great. After 10 years of campaigning and just about 10 beating back Darius III's various generals and even himself in one battle after the next, eventually one of the men close to this Persian king, emperor, cut off his head and actually presented it to Alexander. That's how much fear, that's how much contempt had built up in his foe's empire against Alexander's enemies. And through his own loyalty to the craft of leadership, Alexander had that man killed for that type of act. In a span of 10 years, Alexander the Great, who started learning at a very young age, being tutored by Aristotle, riding horseback, training and battling with his father, someone that was able to unify the various tribes of Macedonia, Alexander the Great conquered the known world, the Persian, or the Persian Empire, the Northern Africa, Northern India, and learned the various cultures that he had conquered and understood their rituals and placed various leaders in specific strategic locales to develop his empire and expand the awareness and the esteem and the prestige of the Macedonians across the world, and take revenge for the decades of tyranny and pain and suffering the Macedonian tribes faced from these foes for so long. Alexander the Great had ambition. He had a purpose. He saw himself for more than a small, meek generation 2 to his father's kingdom, to his father's creation, to his father's greatness. He saw that he could stand on the shoulders of giants, whether that's studying with Aristotle or even his father's technology, training, and power, and he could see farther. Constantly, I experience small businesses where generation 2 may want to take the empire farther, and they're not sure how. They may not have had the training. They may not have had the stewardship. They may not have had the opportunity. Keep in mind, 20 years into Alexander the Great's life, his father passed quickly, and surprised everyone. But he had the training, the core values, the vision, and the ambition to step into that role. Constantly through the Culture Matters podcast and just being out in the world, I meet Generation 2s that want that opportunity to step up. They may or may not have had access to the training and the tutoring. They may or may not have the ambition, the chip on the shoulder. They may or may not have the opportunity to step into that role, depending on who came before them. Their progenitors, the founders, the Gen 1 are still in that role. It's a combination of opportunity, of ambition, of vision, of training, mentorship, knowledge that puts a Generation 2, like an Alexander the Great, in the position to expand what was done before, to expand the business that had been built up to that point. If you're a Generation 2 thinking, I have the opportunity, I even have the ambition, but I'm lacking the knowledge, I'm somebody to bring on your team. Culture Matters, that's what we specialize in. We are the perfect partner, the perfect thought partner and executor to help bring that vision to life. The power of a story, I think, is that something in us, in each of us as individuals, is inspired by those that have come before us and accomplished what we seek to accomplish. There's something in us that seeks to be better than we were yesterday, and to be better, and for the world to be better than it was yesterday. We see this in the Generation 2 to Generation 1 conversation and Alexander the Great and King Philip II. We see this when we turn on movies or television shows and we become enamored and engrossed in the plot lines. Stories transfer information that goes beyond our comprehension. We're all living a hero's journey, whether we realize it or not. I hope that story that's inspired me around leadership, advisory, the power of Aristotle and Alexander's relationship, the importance of King Philip and his sons, inspiration, lessons, and conflict has inspired you to figure out what stories are driving you, understand the power and emotionality of a story, and how wisdom and lessons can be transferred through storytelling.